to another episode of War Hero to Superhero, helping military veterans and first responders transform their lives from the victims of war. You are now in the Superhero Battle Room again to go over and see another War Hero to Superhero transformation. The only two words I'm going to describe this man, and he's going to tell the rest of the story, is unique and powerful. This man has transformed his life, and he's going to join on to share his story with us, because I don't want to give all where credit is due. He's going to go over and tell his story and allow just the information to transform your life. So Phil Cook is here to go and join us in the Superhero Battle Room. So we're going to bring him in.
Hey, good afternoon, folks. How are you doing today?
Awesome.
How you doing out there today?
So thank you. Say again.
So how are we doing out there?
Well, I know I'm doing well, and hopefully our audience is doing well. So as we're streaming in multiple locations, so we brought you on here to go show us your War Hero to Superhero story. So could you tell us like how long you went over and served, and when you served, and how was it overall?
Absolutely. I did 16 years in the service, enlisted in 2000, just prior to 9/11. Retired out about 5 years ago now. During those 5 years, I deployed 5 times, 3 to Iraq. During the invasion, I was over there. During Saddam Hussein's trial, I was there for that, as well as the first Iraqi elections, as well as them closing out Iraq as a whole for operations. After that, I deployed twice to Afghanistan while serving with the 101st out of here at Fort Campbell. Spent some time in Germany and Korea as well. And during my time in service, I unfortunately had some severe damage to my back. Ended up having severe back injury and back surgery ultimately. 7 hours on the operating table. Before having surgery, the doctor turned around and told me, well, you may be able to walk again, but you will not be able to run like you were before. So those are the chances you have at what you're looking at, and what do you want to do? I said, well, I would rather be able to stand up and walk than be bent over looking like a hunchback of Notre Dame trying to walk around on a daily basis.
Wow.
When they did my MRI, they realized that my vertebrae was severely damaged, and my L3, L4, L5, S1, and S2 were all fused together with a cage, rod, and screws in my lower back.
Oh, wow.
After 6 months of physiotherapy and rehabilitation, I ended up having to go through a med board, and then eventually was med boarded out with a 70% rating through the Army.
Wow.
Downfall for that was when Big Army decided to let me go, they did not include my combat injuries that I had sustained in Iraq and overlooked them. So when I turned around and got a second look at my VA records through the VA, that is when they recognized the fact that I had a TBI. They also recognized that I had brain seizures, as well as having problems sleeping. So that, of course, was added to my records to give me a 100% rating, which also attributed to the brain seizures and short memory lapse issues that I've had from time to time.
That's a lot to go over and go through.
I have gone through a lot in my military career. I've lost a lot of soldiers that I was served with. And I am proud to say that even though I did serve 16 years and lost a lot of my soldiers that I served with, that I served side by side with, even with my injuries today, I would still today go back and do it again without a heartbeat of a second.
Wow. So you got out in 2016. How was that? Was it a good transition, a bad transition?
Well, during 2016, that's when they were having the huge med board stop loss going into effect. They were just kind of shoving everybody out the system. You've been here too long. We got to get rid of you type thing. So everybody was literally getting forced out the door. So they were literally turning around and forcing people through the system just to get the numbers out of the system.
Wow.
Unfortunately for me, I had to fight for everything that I have today. But I'm proud to say that I was able to do so. Um, it was a real struggle, but in the end, I stuck to my guns, and having that paper trail for all documentation during my time in service paid
Mhm.
off for me, because without the documentation, I would not have been able to get all those benefits.
Mhm. Yeah, that's huge. That's a huge lesson just to learn from number one is make sure you're keeping every single piece of paper or digital record to go over and bring that in. The more you have, the more you able to fight that battle.
Exactly. I always take when I got ready to get out, I asked for a copy of my records prior to going through the med board. During the med board process, they gave me a copy of my records. But what I found interesting those was the records that they used for my med board left out my TBI. They left out my brain seizures. They left out uh, the problems I had with me sleeping and my memory loss. So when the VA went through my stuff for a second time, they had caught that, and they said, "Well, wait a minute, why isn't this stuff in there?" I said, "Well, this is what the Army used for the med board process."
Mhm.
I said, "And this is what I have digitally from from the VA. Why they do not include it, I do not know. However, though, it needs to be included."
Mhm.
So after filing paperwork to have it added in, it took me 6 additional months to finally get it. But I
Yeah,
did
did you
get it.
get back pay on that?
Yes, I did, fortunately.
That's awesome.
Took me a while, but I did get it. Once they realized my severity of my condition, um, they say, well, because of the condition that you're in, you're on medications, you have a TBI, you have memory lapse, you have brain seizures, you are high risk. Therefore, no employer out there is going to hire you at all because you're
Mhm.
such a high risk, despite your injuries from combat. So I said, well, okay, well, fine. I got to figure out something that I can do.
Mhm.
Fortunately for me, while I was in, I was smart, and I went to college and I got my bachelor's degree in fine arts. Let the military pay for it, which was a great thing for me.
Mhm.
And with me doing photography since high school, it was something I could fall back on, brush up on, and utilize in order to survive the day with what I do.
Yeah, that's a cool transformation story to go over and do that. So, how did you get into the photography and stuff like that? So, you had that background, but what made you think that getting out of the service to say, "Hey, I can do this fantastic skill of manipulating photography to like a blessing for other people"?
Well, myself, like I said, I did photography back in high school for the high school
Hmm.
yearbook. I always had an interest in photography. It became a passion of mine. While I was in the service, I started doing photography for our company, for our change of commands, our award ceremonies,
Hmm.
and whatnot. After that, we deployed downrange. I started doing photos down there
Hmm.
for memorial services for our lost soldiers, handing those pictures off to the chaplain. The chaplain would send them off to the public affairs office, to the rear detachment,
Hmm.
and they would go through the photos and then send those photos to those fallen soldiers' families as a way of saying, we're sorry for your loss. This is the ultimate sacrifice that you have given, and this is our way of saying, thank you and paying our final gratitude to your soldier by having those photographs to be able to send to being sent to the families. After I got back from Afghanistan, I continued to do that while I was stationed in Korea with a second ID out of South Korea. And
Hmm.
then from there, I continued to do it as a UPAR when I came back stateside to Fort Hood, Texas, of all places, and got my back surgery there and finished out doing public affairs as well as NBC for First Cav, First Brigade out of Fort Hood before I retired out finally.
Wow. So, you just now taken that gifting that you learned in high school and just crafted it along and then said, "Hey, you're going to tell me not to work. I'm just going to go over and figure something out and take that skill and now make it a craft and make it a job."
Exactly. It just goes to show you that no matter what skill you may have out there as a talent or as a hobby, you can convert it into a job or a market to where you can actually make money of your talent to survive these days.
Yeah,
And
and that's
that's
a
what
huge
I have been
lesson.
able to do so. that's how I was able to do it. Along with that, after my back surgery, the doctor told me I wouldn't be able to run like I was doing before. Well, as of March this year, I was supposed to go to Baton and go do the Baton Death March at White Sands Missile Range, which is a 26.2-mile ruck march to pay tribute to the original Baton March in the Philippines. 3 days prior to that, they canceled the event, unfortunately. And so even to this day, I'm still out ruck marching and preparing for March this next year coming up for us to do it again. I work with a couple of nonprofit organizations, ruck marching for fallen soldiers, which is Memories of Honor and Ruck for the Fallen. Ruck for the Fallen is based out of Idaho, and we actually take time to have flags go across the country as well as people ruck in memory of our fallen police department, law enforcement, firefighters, and first responders. It's an honor for me able to do this because of the fact that they put their lives on the line on a daily basis on a civilian level versus just a military level. So they deserve the same respect as our military out there as well. Memories of Honor, which is the other nonprofit that I work with, we recognize all military branches throughout the United States. We're represented in 47 different states. We have bibs that we pass out at our events. We also, right now, because of COVID, have virtual events going on where people are able to do a 5K, 10K, half marathon, or marathon. They have an opportunity to run in memory of a fallen soldier. And afterwards, we have what we call the Wall of Gratitude. That Wall of Gratitude is a huge wall where people can put all their bibs on, send a message of gratitude and thanks to the fallen soldiers' families to let them know that their soldier has not been forgotten. Afterwards, Memories of Honor takes those messages, puts them in an envelope, and sends those to those Gold Star family members. What's unique about the Gold Star family members organization and Memories of Honor is all the names that we have in our data bank is actually put in our data bank by the Gold Star family members themselves. So we don't just pull names off of the Army Times or Marine Times postings and just add them to our data banks, which is unique because having those names in that data bank and those Gold Star family members receiving those messages of gratitude is very humbling for them. At the same time, it lets them know that your soldier has not been forgotten. And I consider myself very fortunate considering, like I said, 5 years ago, the doctor told me I wouldn't be able to ruck march again. But yet here I am doing it with a 30-pound ruck on my back. I'm averaging 15 miles a week during training period. And I just completed a 60-mile ruck challenge, which was the virtual Baton, which on their virtual site, we actually literally did a 60-mile trek for the path of the Philippines. I did it in a matter of 3 weeks, and I consider myself very fortunate, despite the fact that I have a KFO leg brace on my right leg. It's hip stabilized my right leg because my leg gives out with a pinched sciatic nerve from when they put the cage in my lower back. So between that going on, my brain seizures going on, and trying to keep myself busy, I've actually done pretty well for myself. What I started doing is started doing a one-of-a-kind special memorial photo for our military, law enforcement, and police officers, which is actually put together by me and the family themselves to have this thing put together. They're printed, they're matched, they're framed, and they're sent out to the families as well. For the price I charge for those, $30 of each of those photos that I do is donated to the police department, firefighters, law enforcement, survivors organization and funds. So that way that their family member that picture is made of is not being forgotten because that donation is made in their name. So that's kept me very busy throughout the COVID situation right now, which is great. And for me being a combat vet, I see a lot of veterans out there that have gone through hell and back. They don't know what to do. They're broke down. They're distraught. They're depressed. They're upset. They don't know what to do and how to go about it. And I look at what I've gone through personally. Having people shot at, blown up in the distance, and losing people downrange. and seeing these families and these fellow soldiers going through a lot, having to readjust. It's not easy. It's not. And I consider
Definitely.
myself fortunate because I could be a lot less worse off than I am. But the biggest part of me being able to be successful today versus where I could be is I've figured out a way to survive not only with my talents and my skills, but a way to benefit not just me, but the families of the fallen soldiers and fallen officers and first responders out there that have given their lives as well for that community service and selfless service that they've given as well. And at the same time, I've also been an inspiration for a lot of people when they're depressed or upset. Hey, I'm a phone call away. I'm a text away. Here's my number. Call me. What can I do for you? And me, to me, it means a lot. I had a soldier that I deployed with downrange. We deployed to Iraq, to Afghanistan with him. Outstanding soldier, hardworking, great person. He's a father. He was a husband. Had a young little daughter. We came back stateside, and shortly after he got out, he was severely depressed and ended up committing suicide. We found out like 2 weeks later it had happened.
Yeah.
So it really hit home, and it's like there needs to be a change in the system to where soldiers have an opportunity to go out there, reach out, talk to a fellow soldier, and without having all the bureaucracy and red tape that's out there these days. A lot of the problems that I talk about, um, I've actually spoke firsthand with fellow veterans at our Innovative Warriors suicide prevention hikes that we have nationwide every Saturday right now going on. Their biggest problem is they call the suicide hotline. They're put on hold. They get a person on the phone that has not been downrange. They tell them, "Oh, we understand what you're going through. We understand what you're going through." No, you haven't. You haven't been downrange. You haven't experienced everything we've gone through. So quit trying to classify me as you're trying to be sympathetic, because that's not the case. The Innovative Warriors Silky hikes that we have, which are free for veterans to attend, it's all about combat vets getting together, all branches, all over the country, being able to sit down side by side, face to face, without any interruptions, and say, "Hey, I'm here for you, brother. That's what we're here for. That's what we're all about." And it's a great cause for me to be out there doing it, because I've gone through a lot myself, and rather than giving up and giving in, like a lot of these veterans have out there, folks, I chose not to do that. That's where I am today. And I consider myself very fortunate.
I would say so. That's a lot to go over and go through. Just one of those things alone is huge. And I know I broke my back a few years back and I had L4, L5 disc rupture. But if the audience understands, I'll try to explain it, that we have multiple vertebrae in our back and we have these discs. And basically, what Phil is saying, that 5 of his vertebrae with the disc are now fused together, which most people can become paralyzed or barely walk and whatnot. So that's a testament to the story that you're able to do rucksack runs, because I know for myself, like certain pressures on my back and certain weights on me. So that's huge to go over and to go do. And you didn't give up, you didn't give in, you gave to the community back. So
Exactly.
one of the things we always ask our guests is 3 superhero tactics. So as you're, dealing with your combat brethren or whatnot, or maybe some words of wisdom you learned from yourself, we'd love for you to go over and share 3 superhero tactics that you give the soldiers that you deal with, or veterans that you connect with, that really helps them go over and thrive, that our audience can go over and glean off.
Sure. One of the biggest things, of course, is the fact that if you see somebody that is keeping themselves distanced from everybody else, they're very quiet, they're really not talking very much. That's a number one thing to look for, because obviously something's going on with that particular person. They're either deep in thought, they're frustrated, they're depressed, they're upset, they don't know who to talk to. Don't be afraid to go up there and say, "Hey, you okay? What's going on? You need to talk? I'm here for you." That is the biggest thing that you want to do. Secondly, always let them know that you are there for them. Give them your phone number, give them an email, set them up on Facebook Messenger to where you can actually talk to them through Facebook if necessary. Make sure that you have a way to keep in contact with that particular person. By doing that, establishing that buddy check system on a weekly basis, touching back and forth with them, you can go ahead and start to establish that relationship. So that way you build the trust with them. At the same time, you're giving them an opportunity to reach out and talk if they need it. That's what they're there for. Thirdly, if you feel that you cannot help them, get them the help that you need, that they need, in particular by you yourself, do not be afraid to pick up the phone and call someone for additional help. In the meantime, keep an eye on them, stay with them if you can as much as possible, because every life out there matters. We lose too many veterans today to suicide as it is, because they're not getting the help that they need. They're not getting the support that they need, and they're not getting the encouragement that they need from us fellow veterans.
I totally agree with that. The ask, care, escort. I know it's a cliche in the Air Force, but it really is that we need to connect with our local military and veterans, not just get forgotten when you get out of the service, and care about them. And then if you are not equipped, then escort them to the right people and get them equipped to the right resources and everything else. Is that
Exactly.
if each of us do that, just one person to one person, our suicide rates would go down immensely. So ask, care, and escort. So I want to thank you for sharing those tactics. As you guys are listening in the audience, this was a great testimony of going from military to civilian, which is our war hero to superhero transformation. I mean, I'm amazed. It took me 3 months to get back to walking. I don't think if I went that far, I don't think I'd be rucksacking. So you're just a testament to the war hero to superhero transformation.
Well, 6 months of physical therapy and rehabilitation, learning how to literally walk again, from 7 hours on the operating table, 45 days recovery. Then I had to utilize a walker for a while, which was not exactly fun at all.
That's not. I've done it. Yeah.
No. Physical therapy made it worse because they wanted me to walk on my own. And I started to tell them I was having problems with my right leg. Well, they thought I was faking it. But when I face planted for the third time in front of their physical therapy director, that's when they realized I wasn't faking it. And they had to go in and do a second MRI, and that's when they caught the pinched nerve. It really sucked, and it's a real struggle. So I consider myself fortunate to be here today, to be able to get out and walk and run like I do. I encourage all you veterans out there that are going through a hard time, don't be afraid to reach out and ask somebody for some help and get that encouragement that you need, because there are other people out there such as me that have gone through a lot, that we've been downrange before, we've experienced what you've gone through, and we're not afraid to help you if you need it. That's what we're here for. Me as now, I am now out of the service, of course, and doing my photography work. I'm doing my special memorial photos that I do here locally. I live outside of Fort Campbell here in Tennessee. And if you want to look at some of my work, you can do so at www.facebook.com. And the webpage is Custom Portraits by Phil. You can look at some of the work I've done on there, as well as the memorial photos. If you want to get a memorial photo done of your loved one, feel free to reach out to me and mention that you heard about it here on the show, and I'll give you an additional 20% discount on that as well. Once again, those pictures are custom printed, matted, framed, and shipped for the same simple price. And part of that money goes to a donation in memory of your loved one as well.
That's really awesome. And Phil, if you can put those links in the chat afterwards, so then people can have access, that'd be greatly appreciated. So I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for our guests, and continue watching, and the hearts and the likes. We're streaming from Facebook and YouTube, Periscope, the Easy Way Wall, Roku, or you could even go over and see us now on Twitch. Ever thought I was on a gaming site? Whoops, there we go. So we're streaming in 7 locations. So what happens is, lastly about this, is that we hope that you catch the entire interview, the 24 minutes and 35 seconds and counting. But if you don't, to go over and get Phil uplifted to our TV show, War Hero to Superhero, we'd love for you to go take 3 seconds of your time to go uplift him there. If he gets the most amount of views in 3 days from now, and all it takes is 3 seconds to give a view, then he will be uplifted to our War Hero to Superhero TV show that reaches 10 to 14,000 a week. So we can go over and get the message out there that you're not alone, and that there's war heroes to superheroes to go help you go over and thrive and not just survive. Because Phil didn't just survive; he's thriving now. I mean, 60-mile rucksack run. I look at that and I'm crying on the inside. So I think that's amazing. So I want to thank you.
It's all about having the determination and heart, and most important thing is it's all about having the drive not to fail. You want that drive to succeed and be successful, folks. You can do it, and I know for a fact there's a lot of us out there have gone through a lot. Guys have been off a lot worse than me. They've lost their legs, they've lost their limbs, their arms, and they've managed to succeed in life today. So do yourself a favor and don't give up. Don't be afraid to get that extra help. And if anything, find a local veteran business out there and help show your support by shopping at our local veteran businesses. By all means, please, we greatly do appreciate that.
That's awesome. Well, I'll start with a 1 mile rucksack run first, and I'll hopefully catch up one day.
All it takes is 1 mile to start. Next thing you know, you'll be doing 2, then 3, then 10, then 20. You got to start somewhere.
All right. Well, definitely not much to do in Dover, so I guess I'll do that. So I want to thank you for going over and joining. Thank you, Phil, for that. Thank you, guests, for going over and joining. Keep going, doing your 3-second views so we can lift Phil to the next level. And we will catch you tomorrow on our last episode for War Hero Superhero this week in the Battle Room. So, Phil, thank you for joining the Battle Room. Hope to catch up with you soon. And any final message before we part out?
Yes, it's been a pleasure to be on here. I hope you all folks have got something out of the interview today. And I encourage all of you out there that are listening to do what you can to make a difference in your community as well on a daily basis.
Cool. Then we'll end it with that. We'll start making that change starting now. Thank you.